A pleasure having the podcast there. How you doing?
Yeah, doing great, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Good, good. No, you're welcome. It's great to have you on. And yeah, I just kind of thought I'd introduce you and just talk about kind of what you're into and your business. And you're the founder and managing director of Rev Sherpas, 10 years growth, acceleration, consulting experience, revenue and client retention, improving sales and lead generation, and like kind of like your business. And how did you kind of like, get into these areas and what you were like, your business entails and involves?
Yeah, great question. So prior to launching Rev Sherpas last year, right at the peak and heart, the start of COVID, as you indicated, I'd been doing management consulting for the past decade. So I actually was laid off, and I had always had the entrepreneur itch in me, and I thought it'd be an opportune time to help small businesses because that particular community, out of everyone, really was the most impacted, right? And I was able to leverage a lot of the skill sets that I had acquired over the years, in which I had been working primarily with large global financial institutions, helping them simplify, streamline, and automate their marketing, sales, and service processes just so that they could increase their revenues and profits and essentially create a better customer experience so that their customers would be more satisfied, more loyal, and ultimately do more business with them. And what I had found is that a lot of the strategies and tactics that these global conglomerates and leading brands are using were not used as much as they should be in the small business marketplace. So I saw that void in the market, went out on my own, and business has been great, and it's definitely picking up here in 2021.
No, that's great. And I think, like you said, like with the pandemic, it's definitely been a challenging time for a lot of businesses and a lot of people. And I think like there's so many kind of elements of it, spectrums of it, where like businesses have thrived, businesses have collapsed, businesses have done okay. It's kind of a whole wide variety. And I think it's like you said, if you a lot of people have lost their jobs, and you've been able to like pivot and adapt in that time and decide on creating something, which I think is great. And I think, you're wanting to give back and to help other businesses in that process as well, especially small businesses who, have been hit pretty hard.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the trends I'm seeing out there is I'm certainly not alone. There are so many individuals that have taken upon themselves to slowly but surely transition from corporate or just immediately dive in, right? So I'm able to advise early stage entrepreneurs or more established business owners who just aren't making as much money as they want to, and they actually don't know why. So I'm able to partner with them and advise them in order to ignite their startup, turnaround, or expansion.
What are the what are some of the difficulties that you see that people kind of present to you, if that makes sense? Like some of their struggles or things that they are trying to figure out. Like what are some of the kind of questions that they ask?
Yeah, that's a real good question. So let me respond. The main themes that I'm seeing are as follows. On the one hand, they might be struggling from a lead generation perspective. Let's face it, every business owner wants more leads and as many clients as they can handle, right? But beyond that, there's a couple of other pain points or challenges that I'm certainly seeing time and time again. They are handcuffed, they're bottlenecked by manual intensive processes, which thwart their productivity, it limits their efficiency, and as a result, they can't do as much as they want to day in and day out. So what I do, I actually go in, take a look at their operations, figure out where they can be more efficient. And by doing so, I devise a roadmap, an action plan that enables them to focus more on their revenue and cash flow generating activities. By focusing on their core competencies and spending less time on administrative tasks, they're then able to boost their overall sales conversions and increase the level of service that they provide to their book of business or clients. Besides lead gen and just lack of staff productivity, also commonly seen that these companies, they just don't have the right infrastructure in place. They have inaccurate data. They have systems that are not talking to one another. And the reality is that you no longer have to be a Fortune 500 company to invest in sophisticated software or hardware, right? A lot of what used to require a firm-wide enterprise license, in which you would need to buy thousands or hundreds of software licenses, that's no longer the case. There is tremendous technology, be it from CRM, from business intelligence, leveraging more modern technology trends such as artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain, so on and so forth, to enable the smaller to mid-sized shops to be able to resemble a much larger operation, and as a result, deliver just as a tremendous overall end-to-end shopping or customer experience for their customers.
And like, would you say that, these processes and this way of having a business and working, is much more safer because it's online really. And there's I mean, I saw a crazy article today, and it was like in the UK, in the United Kingdom, 75, like 70 plus thousand businesses, like collapsed, small businesses and shops. This is on the high street. And you think, like, if you're not pivoting and you're not kind of doing these processes with your business, then that you're going to suffer, aren't you, really? And you think if you've got these processes in your business, or you can kind of make something, especially if it's like distributing your product, online, and B2B, and lead generation, it's definitely, I think, the way forward, isn't it? And I think, do you think, like, some of the clients that you have, when they're new to it, they don't really, they don't understand it too much, or they're kind of like trying to find their way, if that makes sense, and you're giving them that advice? Because to me, like, me as a person, like, I'm only aware of how much of it works. There's only so much I know of how it works, if that makes sense. So to me, I would have to, to revise it more. Do you find that some people go into it and they don't really kind of know how the systems work, and they just kind of dived in?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and you're spot on. Let's face it, with this pandemic, and I know people are burned out and just are really tired about talking to the pandemic, but the reality is it's here to stay, and it forced a lot of businesses, regardless of your size, to transition to more of a remote operating model. And a lot of business owners were not prepared. They just were not ready. So in a way, they were forced to do so. Some quickly adapted. Those that did are thriving. Others didn't. And unfortunately, like you noted, they're out of business or fledgling, right? So there certainly are a lot of um, businesses that need my assistance. And it reminds me, we live pretty close to a shopping center down the road. It's your typical strip mall, if you will. And one day we were getting out of the car, and one of my daughters looked across the way, and there were one, two, three well-known retail brands and shops that are no longer there. And that's just a few of many, not just in our area, but across the world, right? So it's not just small businesses, it's really any size that has been forced to really get lean and mean. And if you're not leveraging the power of the internet to conduct your business, you're going to get left behind. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. And it must be, rewarding though, by, helping people, and seeing them, to grow in their business through, what they're doing, through, your support and guidance as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to really do two things in order to deliver results quickly, in order to help my clientele. On the one hand, I actually have an interactive proprietary profit acceleration software application in which I can run my clients' current financials through the system, and they can see right then and there on the screen if we make these certain adjustments in a wide array of strategies, what the impact will be on their revenues, profit, and business valuation, not just over the next couple of months, but the next year and the next 5 months as well. So we take not just a near term outlook, we're also certainly striving to deliver results for the long haul as well. Secondly, um, going back to the theme of online, we also have an online small business growth training academy, which is particularly ideal for startup founders. Every week they receive a business building and marketing mastery training video. And within the platform itself, there is essentially a virtual MBA in a box curriculum so that they can quickly learn, refine, and really take their skill sets to the next level just so that they'll be better prepared for the next economic downturn. Essentially, I want to partner with the small business community in order to equip, enable, and empower them to exponentially outperform in any economy. And that's really what my consulting practice is all about.
No, that's awesome, and I really think it's a good work in what you're doing, and I think it's much needed, isn't it, in the way of society now, and to be prepared and to really forecast, where what direction you want to go in and what you want to earn. And I think, especially in business, you need to have that helping hand and that mentorship and support sometimes to help you, get to that next level. And I speak to people, and they've got coaches, they've got mentors, they have people assisting them, and it's, like, you can be doing it your own, like, in your business, but sometimes, as you mentioned, to have someone help assist you, it's always a good option, isn't it? And I think, like, being able to learn, and not to make, you know you learn from mistakes, but sometimes for those mistakes not to happen, you could have your support in place, so certain things may not happen, if that makes sense, like so they don't may not lose money or profit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's clear whether you're a Fortune 500 CEO, whether you're a world-renowned athlete, whether you're a top performer on Hollywood or Broadway, right? Um, you need a coach, right? So regardless of what you refer to it as, a coach, an advisor, a consultant, um, you know, they're there for a reason to get you to the next level, right? And time again, so many people express that had I not invested in the services of this particular mentor, I wouldn't be where I am today, right? So yeah, that's definitely part of what our consulting practice brings to the table: one-on-one, independent perspective, right?
Mm,
Business owners, they're by their very nature, they're great at what they do. They could be excellent at their particular technical trade, but they've traditionally and for the most part are just so consumed with what they do that they never take a step back to see the whole picture. And that's where someone like my firm would come in, just to point out, hey, here's what you need to do, but also here's what you should absolutely avoid and not do, right? So
yeah.
that's that advisory aspect is certainly something we bring to the table.
I mean, I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and was saying that sometimes when people get so caught up in business or success, it's almost like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being successful, but what I'm trying to say is people can get so tunnel vision in that funnel and burn out? Do you know, do you think like in business, you like you said, you need to have that ability to step back to kind of, take not your foot off the gas to the full length, but to look after yourself because it's like if you're not effective in your health or your mental state, then that can leak into your business, isn't it? And I think how would you say that is a good way of doing that? If that makes sense, because it can be difficult, can't it? I suppose if you're the person driving the company or you have people working for you and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So having balance is certainly key. That's not something that we're necessarily going to lead with and emphasize, because let's get to the point. You have to get after it. You have to grind.
Mm,
You Even if you do have tunnel vision, um, you still have to. I think you said this: see the forest through the trees.
yeah,
But the reality is, even if you're striving for balance, you still have to put in the time and effort, right? And
yeah, yeah,
so to take a different, I guess, approach on it, what we do is, rather than just focus on one particular lead strategy, for instance, we talked a tad earlier about lead gen. By no means is that our sole focus, right? We take a more
yeah.
comprehensive, holistic, multifaceted approach by analyzing and diagnosing one's business from a plethora of angles, be it lead gen, marketing, sales,
Mm,
onboarding, customer service, operations, processes, systems,
mm,
personnel, employee development, leadership, and training, um, and recommending the ideal mix of a plethora of those aforementioned strategies. That's
mm,
actually what will enable a business owner who may be struggling, who may be burned out, to
yeah,
operate more efficiently. And with that, that's really what will give them more balance. But it's by no means am I saying that I have the
yeah,
magic pill to allow someone to make millions of dollars and never have to work a day in their life again, right?
yeah, yeah. That's it. And I think it's like the foundations of a house, isn't it? Like in business and all these mechanisms that intertwine. There's all these different layers, and it's like if you're not efficient in, like you said, those layers you mentioned, then you're going to be more stressed, and like you need those in place to kind of alleviate that. And I was just thinking as well, do you have any like role models or like mentors, like now or growing up at all?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, growing up, I played sports up into to high school, so that's always been a huge part of my life. I'm still a huge sports fan, much to my wife's chagrin. um, but Michael Jordan, for me, I mean, it's no debate. He's easily the best athlete of all time. So I'd love to be able to pick his brain at some point, just because not only was he the most athletic, he was, arguably the most mentally tough individual, not just in sports. So he's spectacular, and I have many great memories of
Mm,
seeing him compete, and really just work his way to eventually winning 6 NBA titles, which is just unheard of. So um, that's from a sports
yeah.
perspective. I could certainly name many others, but from a business standpoint, I think Warren Buffett comes to mind. He's getting there, up there in age, right? I think he's 90 or 91 now, which is pretty amazing. But
Uh,
they call him the Oracle of Omaha for for good reason.
yeah.
He's seen it all, and
Mm,
a lot of his philosophies. You just mentioned the foundation. He's all about investing in companies that have that foundation in place, that moat in place to truly insulate and protect them from anything that's predictable or that is unpredictable and comes out of the blue,
mm.
right? So love following his readings. And then from a Hollywood and just humor perspective, Larry David, um, who invented Seinfeld and is also on
Oh
Curb Your
yeah,
Enthusiasm on HBO.
yeah.
That guy's just hilarious. So uh, I as odd as that might sound, me considering someone who makes me laugh as a mentor, I certainly would.
Yeah. No, I think they're really good examples, and I think Michael Jordan's great, and I don't know what he's doing now, but there's a documentary out recently about his life. But I've got a baseball card of Michael Jordan's from 86 or 85, 85 or 86. It's from like late 80s, I think it is. It's like a base.
Okay.
I need to, which is pretty. I need to get that marked up. But yeah, he's a great example, and I think Warren Buffett, he's another good example. He's done really well, and isn't he invested in DQ, Dairy Queen, or something like that? I saw a video of him and Bill Gates eating ice cream or something like that, and I was like,
Yeah, I don't know if he still has a position, an equity position in Dairy Queen, but he does love ice cream for sure. That's
yeah,
Yeah, he just seems like this lovable
yeah,
character who loves
yeah.
his desserts, you know?
Is
Yeah.
he live in the same house? I think he lives in the same house or something. He still owns the same house or something like that for like however
Yeah,
long.
I mean, he certainly doesn't live a life of excess, even though he could. I don't know exactly, but at one point I had read same house, same cars, you name it. It's
Yeah.
definitely living below his means.
I think that's one of the things that stand out to me with um some people who achieve a lot of success and wealth, and they're quite humble with it, if that makes sense. And I think everyone's different, everyone's got their own choice, and I have no quarrels about how people go about stuff. But it's like, Keanu Reeves, I've seen how he is, and I think I saw a picture, and some couple had missed their flight, and he helped them out and gave them some money to get a flight. And I saw a picture of him on the subway, just wearing normal clothes, still using public transport. And I think like it stands out, doesn't it? If that makes sense. I don't want to go off key too much, but people who are quite humble with where they're at.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge Keanu fan. He's definitely come a long way since Bill and Ted's and Point Break, and he's created some tremendous movies with the Matrix, among others. Funny story, again, not to go off on tangent, but I,
No,
I
no, no.
used to live in Chicago, and I was coming home pretty late one night with a friend, and one of the Matrix movies was being filmed near my apartment at the time, and they were filming a scene, and for some reason they weren't actually they were just mouthing the lines. Um, there was no sound, but we were able to watch. It was like really late, and that's just one of my memories of him. But
Wow.
recently, I've yeah, there's all sorts of stories about just how generous he is. It's quite fascinating, and some of the
Yeah.
things he had to go through, the tragedies that he's experienced in his life. He definitely is grounded,
Mm,
humble, and certainly gives back. Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating that what experience to witness that as well. And I think like yeah, it's I think that's the thing that I've seen in our interviews with CEOs of companies where I can see like business changing a lot, and people sometimes can feel like CEOs and people who are higher up sometimes, or they feel intimidated to ask them questions. And like there are a lot of CEOs out there who, is it that open door policy, open office door policy or something like that, where you can go in and chat. um have you kind of like experienced that? Like, what do you think around that? And what have you kind of seen that change over time in business? With CEOs and people in places of authority, and sometimes people below. Yeah,
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So I have done consulting for larger companies in which the CEO, in order to better relate to his staff, actually didn't sit in the corner office. He sat in the middle of all the cubicles. I don't know if that's the right approach.
yeah,
And I don't know if the gentleman or whoever's in charge now still does that. But I thought at the time it was an excellent way to lead by example and just
Mm,
get into the trenches, roll up the sleeves, and
yeah.
just demonstrate to the team that yes, he might be a member of the executive leadership team, but he's one of you. We're all the same. And
Yeah.
so at the heart of what we do for firms that aren't just a solopreneur run by one person, we really want to establish and solidify a solid culture,
Mm,
because that is, you mentioned foundation earlier. Having the right culture in place is going to do a couple of things. One, it's going to, first of all, result in the staff, regardless of location, regardless of rank, regardless of department, they're going to be more engaged. They're going to be happy working there, and thus they're going to put more effort in. By doing that, by being more engaged, they'll be more focused. Thus, their service will go up. Thus, they'll be able to bring in more revenue because they'll be able to cross sell, upsell, um, and just provide a better overall experience for their clients, customers, or patients,
mm,
depending on your industry. So it really does start with culture, and culture is really defined and dictated, by the team or individual at the top. So
yeah.
yeah, it's open door policies are good. You certainly need a transparent culture and atmosphere. I've seen way too many places that have far too many layers and just bureaucracy in order to get things done. I think agile's it's a buzzword, but it makes sense. You want to do
Mm,
things faster, right? Um,
yeah.
yeah.
It's no, it's really it's interesting, isn't it? Because like, there's so many like layers, and like in your work as well, there must be so, like you said, so many different areas that you can kind of work with somebody. It's not just one approach. There's all these different areas with it, and I don't want to go off tangent too much, but do you? I know a lot of businesses now. Do you look at the cybersecurity side of things? Do you deal with that at all? Is that in your line of work?
It's not.
No.
I'm not a technical consultant, but
Yeah.
cybersecurity is certainly one of the more pressing matters of the day in the C-suite. I had posted a blog on this the other day on my website. It was over half of CEOs surveyed across the globe. One, they're bullish on the economic revival across the world, but secondly, they're investing heavily in digital transformation, which we touched on earlier. But in the top 10 of what they're investing in, and what keeps them up at night, was cybersecurity. So yeah, you absolutely have to be prepared with that. But in that case, I would partner with
Yeah.
a cybersecurity expert.
Yeah. Because I don't know if you saw like I mean I play video games, and
Okay.
that CD Project Red who did the Cyberpunk game, they got their servers, they got hacked, and this is like
Oh wow.
big, one of the biggest game companies,
Yeah.
and whoever hacked them said if you don't give us XYZ amount of money, we're gonna auction off your source code keys or something like that,
Mm,
and they did. So and
jeez.
the employees couldn't log into their accounts for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I mean, it's it just shows you, doesn't it? Like you said, companies, that they might be anxious or needing to invest in those areas as well. But I think it's very new, isn't it? Like people don't really sometimes think about it, or the people you deal with, the clients may, they're going into business and they're going into lead generation, and you're kind of encountering potholes as you go along, I suppose.
Yeah, I like that phrase. I never thought about. I'll have to use
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So you're exactly right. I mean, say 20, 30 years ago, actually around 20 years ago was when the acronym CRM, customer relationship management, when that became known to the world with the growing popularity of Salesforce.
Yeah, it's
And
massive now.
a few days or a few years after that, security came to the forefront. And so now a lot of larger companies will not just have a chief technology officer, but they'll have a chief information officer, and they'll also have a chief security officer. So they're definitely ramping up in areas to be better prepared to take on potential hackers, among other security threats. In the small business community, however, those smaller sized companies just don't have the bandwidth, personnel, or infrastructure to do it on their own. So in that case, it would make sense to partner with an expert in cybersecurity. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I just think as well, like, do you have any like favorite books or anything like that you've read at all?
Yeah, I do. You know, out of college, one of my favorite authors was Michael Lewis, who
Mm.
you may have heard of. He's actually written some books too that turned into movies. One of which was Moneyball, and
Yeah.
essentially it's about sports and business, getting the biggest bang for your buck and identifying true value plays that can lead to pretty quick returns over time. But his original books were more so into Wall Street and just what goes on behind the scenes, Liar's Poker, for instance. So he's always been one of my favorite authors. I think he even has a book coming out in a few months concerning the pandemic. So I'm sure he'll just have some crazy real life stories and insights to share there. The book that I most recently read, which I was fascinated by, was um, by Napoleon Hill, who everyone's heard of, Think and Grow Rich, but I'd never heard of this book, and it was really good. It was Outwitting the Devil, and I think part of the reason I was so thrilled with it was because, one, I didn't realize it existed. I never heard of it, but one of my mentors actually was a big fan of it, and I checked it out, and it deals with the devil, but by no means is it a strictly religious or spiritual book. More so, it's about how do you um, balance faith and fear. Faith meaning go with your gut, go with your instinct, and really think for yourself, right? To formulate your opinions, not be a victim or subjected to groupthink, and apply your own independent thinking to lead a better life, to build a better business, and to really avoid fear, procrastination, jealousy, and anger. And the way Napoleon Hill lays it out, what I really liked about it is he simulates, or some people might even assert it's a real conversation with the devil. I'll let you guys decide that. But he actually lays out conversations between himself and the devil, and it's a really cool book.
Yeah. No, I definitely have to check that one out because I've never heard of that one. I read Think and Grow Rich a few years ago, and yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out. And I think like Moneyball's, I've not seen the film, but I've heard good things about it. And I think it's important to read, isn't it? And you can learn so much from books, and you can apply so much of that to your life. You can't read it and just expect things to happen, but you can take things from it and apply that to your life. And I think he's really iconic. And I think it was the 1920s or the 30s they were written or something like that. And you
Yes.
think they're being applied. They're way ahead of their time.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's nearly 100 years ago, but the advice still holds true. One of his other books, which I just haven't gotten around to reading, it's because it's 600 pages, I think, Laws of Success.
Yeah,
That's definitely on my radar as well. But if we think back um, 20, 25 years ago, around the time Amazon was launched, um, it was just buy a book in the bookstore or buy it online through Amazon. But now you can listen to them. You can learn so much online just watching videos, listening to podcasts like yours, right?
yeah,
There's just so many different ways to pursue personal development, continuing education to really just get better every day, you have no excuse. I mean, there's so much
Yeah.
information out there.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And there is it's those excuses people sometimes make, isn't it, for themselves, and as to why they do it. And there's so many outlets of where you can kind of consume in content and information, isn't there? I remember when it was just YouTube, and you didn't have, was it YouTube, MySpace, and I don't know what else. But yeah, it was literally that. Whereas now you got Insta. There's so much stuff on Instagram. It's insane. So there's so many resources, isn't there, as well?
Yeah, that's a good point. We've come a long way since AOL. I actually do still have
Yeah, well,
a Hotmail account. But yeah, I think, and we see this where business owners will just think that because everyone else is doing it, that they should as well. And that's totally the wrong approach. You need to differentiate yourself from the crowd. You need to be unique, and you need to
mm,
stand out from the sea of sameness. So just because
mm,
everyone else is trying to make a dent and make a name for themselves on TikTok, Clubhouse, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, doesn't mean you have to do it. Just pick one. And
yeah,
even before you pick one of those, maybe take a look at your website. You'd be amazed. So many business owners just their website is, it's pretty embarrassing. And by no means am I a website developer. I'm just not. But one thing I
yeah,
do with my clients is to evaluate their, not just the messaging on their website, but all of their marketing, just to make it more compelling, more enticing,
mm,
so that when people actually do review and visit their site, or peruse their marketing materials, regardless of the medium, they will want to take action, be it
yeah,
um, actually move forward with an investment or request more information to educate themselves. So yeah, you have to carve out your niche and carve out your brand, but by no means do you have to be everywhere, because if you try to
mm,
be all things to all people, really you're nobody to no one.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a really, really great points, and I think it's like you say with the website. That's one of my goals this year. I want to try and get my website sorted.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's like it's the branding, isn't it? And being able to funnel a possible client through that the landing page, or the it's like a front cover, isn't it? And having the right layout, the colors, so much to it. And I think it's like you said, it's important to get that right, because that could be the make or break between someone possibly reaching out or not. And it's so important. And you also mentioned, um, yeah, you mentioned like websites, and what choosing to go on TikTok or social media or certain platforms. And if you've got your fingers in too many areas, it's your energy going into that, and sometimes you only got so much focus going in certain directions. And I can relate to that with doing podcasts. I put most of my content on Instagram and LinkedIn. That's kind of where I'm at. And I've got my Facebook pages as well, and I've got a TikTok and a Twitter. But I try and focus, on two of those areas, and then I try and catch up. But sometimes it's impossible to do it all at once, because if you're doing too many things at once, it's you want to put out quality content. And if
Yes.
you're just trying to distribute it to 20 areas at once, it's not going to be quality content. That's what I found.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, one of my pet peeves is, I again, I social media is not going to be one of the areas where I'm going to lead with from a initial growth recommendation perspective. Um, does it need to be part of your arsenal and part of your branding? Yes, it does, but to what extent, it depends. Um, what I've seen is over the years, as I've dipped my toe into the social media marketplace and just seen it expand and evolve, and really, as you indicated, become too overwhelming. Um, you have these influencers or gurus, and they're on sites that we haven't even mentioned today, and they'll post the exact same thing on every single channel. And I'm thinking to myself, well, clearly they have it automated. They have a lot of followers, and that's good. But do you really need to produce the exact same thing? Like, do something different. Show your diverse perspectives. So that's just my point of view there. At the same time, I respect their efficiencies.
Yeah,
Assuming it is valuable content, right? So yeah, it's definitely time consuming, and that's part of the reason why I don't start with that core
yeah,
growth strategy. There's far other things you can do in order to
yeah,
build a profitable business.
yeah. No, so that's a really good point. And as you mentioned, I think it's about being yourself, isn't it? Being yourself and doing what you think fits.
Hmm.
And if you're trying to just be like X, Y, Z, people are going to recognize that. And that's kind of I mean, I look up to Joe Rogan, his podcast, and I
Okay,
like Gary V. But
nice.
I I do my own, I do my own thing. I have my own approach with this, and that's people I think respect you more, and they're going to notice it if you're trying to be like the other person on their show. That and I think it's more authentic to you, and it's like you could probably relate to that in your business and what you're doing. You're doing you know y- what you think works, and you're being yourself. That makes sense. If you're trying to be like Amazon or someone like that, it's people see that. Do you kind of see that in clients? Do you see them in businesses trying to copy what other businesses are doing? If that makes sense.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's quite prevalent. So I like what you were just saying about being authentic, being genuine, because people will appreciate that, and that certainly goes a long ways. Um, and conversely, if you're not, they'll see right through you in a heartbeat, not just in person, but also online, right? Um, so yeah, it's if we look at some of the trends out there, as we indicated, do you want to go all in on social, or do you want to build a profitable business? We're more so about the latter. So we want to partner with you by leveraging our proprietary profit acceleration tool, by leveraging our online small business growth training academy, and the six books that I've written in the past year, which
Mm.
essentially I utilize as resource guides to complement our core training curriculum based on what your unique challenges are that you're trying to solve going forward.
Yeah, and like those books, like what kind of like they entail? Where can people find those? Like,
Oh,
what have you kind of like dealt in those books? Like, is it are they like ebooks? Like, like kind of
yeah.
what's involved
So
in those?
two of them are on Amazon, which I'm really proud of. If anyone ever wants to hear about the horror of self-publishing and bringing books to market, they could certainly talk to me because it's a time-consuming endeavor for sure. So yeah, two books are on Amazon, and then I have four additional ebooks on a plethora of topics, including financial statement analysis mastery, digital marketing demystified, peak profit, potential performance for entrepreneurs. I forget the title
Yeah,
of
yeah,
one
yeah,
of them, and then exponentially outperform in the economy. Those are just a small sampling of the titles.
yeah,
But on Amazon, it's Growth Game Changers, and then the
yeah.
other book, my initial one was Client Connect.
Nice. I think it's important, isn't it? That if you can create something and provide value to other people, I think it's definitely kind of priceless, isn't it? Like taking your experiences, taking your work ethic and your lessons and what you've learned and putting it into something to put it out there to allow other people to to grow and take something from that as well. It's it's like in your business as well. You're creating this bridge to help people, and I think it's great, and I think it's great what you're doing. And I was just thinking, like, where can people find like your website and your um email or links?
Sure, sure. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. My main website is the name of the company. It's revsherpas.com, revsherpas.com. And if they go to Rev Sherpas, right at the very top, they could actually download a complimentary copy of my first ebook, which is entitled Exponentially Outperform in Any Economy. So just put in your first name and email, and immediately you'll get a free copy of that. And I'm always on LinkedIn. You can find me there. And then another great way to get a hold of me is on Twitter. It's just my name. My handle is Kevin M. Wessels. M is in Michael. Kevin M. Wessels on Twitter.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, Kevin. And yeah, no, I wish you all the best in what you're doing. I think you're doing great work. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. And I think, we've really touched base on, a lot of great topics. And, some of these topics are new to me, and it's always good to, learn new things. And yeah, I think, it's been really great, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah, you too, Adam. I really enjoyed the discussion, and thanks for having me on today.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Take care, and I'll stay in touch.
All right, now
Take,
take it
take
easy.
care.